I've been with my husband for 4 years, married nearly 1. He's been previously married and has 2 kids from that marriage, a boy, 14, and a girl, 16. I've found myself becoming increasingly more and more resentful of his kids. Before you come at me, let me explain. So my husband is 10 years older than I am. He got a vasectomy during his previous marriage, and first of all, he didn't tell me this when we started dating. Honestly, 4 years ago I was organizing this protest and he happened to be one of the police officers that was there just making sure everything was going to go smoothly. I took a chance and asked for his number and he actually gave it to me. He was just newly divorced at the time and so we wanted to take it slow. After about 2 years of dating, we bought the place we're currently in. It's this lovely little cabin about an hour away from a major city. It's on about 5 acres of land and we have horses and chickens. It's honestly always been a dream of mine to live where we are. It's perfectly secluded and yet close enough to drive into the city if we need anything. The only thing is, it's a bit far from my work. We originally chose it because it was sort of in the middle of work for the both of us. At the time, he worked an hour north of our place. He wasn't willing to transfer to the city that I currently work at because his kids live in the town he's stationed in. So we compromised and said we were going to try to find a place in the middle of where we both work. I didn't make a fuss about the location because I was so enthralled by the beauty of the place and the land, but the commute in the winter is brutal. Takes me an hour and a half to get to work, both ways. On top of that, my family and friends all still live back in the city. One of my best friends just had a baby and she doesn't want to drive out here. A lot of my friends don't want to commute out here to hang out, so they're constantly asking me to come into the city or hang after I'm done work, but sometimes I just want to go home, even though it takes me an hour to get home. It's all starting to add up. But that's all to say that I do love my little cabin. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, but we made it our own. Anyway, shortly after my husband and I moved into our home, his son would come every second weekend to stay for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Sunday we'd have to drive the hour up north back to his home or to a gas station or something halfway so his mom would pick him up. My husband's daughter didn't come to stay with us because she wasn't speaking to him. She's still salty about the divorce and is mad at him for leaving her mom. So anything we could get out of them was lovely at first, even if it was just his son. His son, I'll call him Kalen, really took to me from the beginning. He would hug me. He made me gifts. He wanted to spend time with me. He was the cutest boy. I was a stepmom and totally loving it. Little things started to happen that sort of raised my eyebrows. He wanted to cuddle with us and sleep in bed with us because he'd have bad dreams, but I had to draw the line there because I just didn't feel comfortable sleeping with him in our bed. That was all fine and dandy as my husband then went to go and sleep with him over the weekend in Kalen's bed. Originally he would just go down and lay there until he fell asleep, but then he'd actually fall asleep and just stay asleep. So I'd be sleeping upstairs alone all weekend. The way the cabin is, Kalen's room was in the basement. It was all nice and renovated. It wasn't at all dark and dungeony, so before you come at me that it was cruel to do that to him or no wonder he was having nightmares. No. It was a beautiful, finished basement. He even helped with the renovations, and the master room was on the 2nd level. The only reason this bothered me was that my husband started getting deployed away from home for days, sometimes weeks at a time, so sometimes the only time we'd get together were the weekends. Well, if those weekends landed on when Kalen was coming to stay, we would really ever get together time. Now, also, I will say, Kalen was 12 years old when he wanted to sleep in the same bed as us, the whole my husband sleeping with him fiasco. Kalen is now 14 and he's still pulling the same stunt. Is this normal? I'm not sure. Maybe I was raised differently, but I feel like it was a little old to be doing that. No? Not only that, but sometimes he'd creep upstairs to scare us. One time, he had gone to bed, and he was downstairs for a good 45 minutes. I was getting ready for bed and changing, and he jumped right into our room to give us a jump scare, but the problem was that my top was off and so he got a look at my bits. He quickly turned around and apologized and went downstairs apologizing, but the damage had been done. I was mortified. My husband tried to laugh it off and I literally had to tell him how wrong and inappropriate it was. I was like, he's not just a child anymore, he's literally going to be a teenager. Yeah, a body is a body, but I'm not even his bio mom. I love the kid dearly, but enough is enough. So I had to tell my husband to go and have a talk with him because I was super uncomfortable about it. So he hemmed and hawed a bit before he went downstairs and told him that he shouldn't come upstairs past a certain time at night, and if he needs us he can yell at us from the bottom of the stairs. Then I sort of said that he babies him too much. Well, that sort of started an argument. My husband goes to say that he is his baby and always will be, and he's a sensitive kid. He's like, what do you expect me to do? Spank him? And I'm like, okay, whoa, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying there's ways to discipline without violence and by actually teaching a lesson. How's a kid supposed to know right from wrong when I'm clearly upset and he sees you laughing at my face? Then he learns that that sort of behavior is okay and even funny. I'm not trying to traumatize Kalen. Like, what if I had been fully naked? Well, He didn't like me saying that, so he went and slept with Kaylin anyways. Also, if you say why were you changing with the door to our bedroom open, well, I thought Kaylin was good and asleep. I didn't think I'd have to worry about him jumping in and seeing us. But I guess I was the a-hole that night. I just think Kaylin is just a bit childish for his age. I don't ever remember behaving the way that he was at that age. And I think my husband and his ex just sort of baby him and enable that behavior. He doesn't even know how to use a vacuum or a screwdriver, for crying out loud. When we were doing our renovations in the basement, Kaylin wanted to help. So we let him help, and we were asking him to replace the outlet covers. Well, we had the covers that had 2 screws. I gave him a screwdriver and told him to just screw in the new one. Well, he was having a heck of a time because he didn't know how to use a screwdriver. I feel like that's not really rocket science. So he was getting frustrated and then ended up throwing the screwdriver on the floor and telling me that he didn't want to do this anymore. So I tried to be patient with him and still keep him involved somehow. So I was like, hey, why don't you vacuum the little bits off the floor? I was working on the ceiling at the time and my husband was outside cutting baseboards. So then he picks up the vacuum and he's like, how do I turn it on? So I show him the button to turn it on. So he turns it on and he starts vacuuming, but then he's looking at me like, am I doing this right? And I'm like, yeah, right on. Good job. But then he's not really moving big things out of the way or moving things in order to get all of the bits off the floor, and it just kind of looks like he's doing a half-its job. But instead of looking like he's purposely missing things, it just seems like he legitimately doesn't know how to vacuum. So I'm like, wow. Great. And then my husband comes in and he starts praising him like crazy and acting like he's made of gold. He didn't even really try to say like, hey, over there, or hey, missed a spot. Like, am I wrong here? That brings me to the main part of this story. So there were a few times that my husband had to work the weekends that Kaylin was supposed to come over, and instead of missing out on coming over, Kaylin would ask his mom if he could still come by and stay the weekend even though his dad was gone. And his mom asked me if that would be okay, and I didn't want to be the bad stepmom or seem like I didn't love Kaylin or didn't want him around. I mean, I didn't see him as a bad kid, he just sort of annoyed me with how he behaved so childish, and as a stepmom, I felt like I couldn't really discipline him or like help in that department. I felt like it wasn't my place. So I'd have to kind of tell my husband how I'd feel. But then he didn't really listen to me. He was more offended by his parenting style than anything, so eventually I just stopped saying stuff and just put a smile on my face and played the game and tried to be the cool, chill stepmom. Anyways, so recently Kaylin comes over and we're hanging out and he said he's hungry and wants a snack. So I say there should be some instant noodles in the cupboard if he wants, or I can make us a yummy plate of cheese and crackers or something. He's like, no problem, I'll make the instant noodles. So he's in the kitchen and he's gone for a little while and I don't really hear the microwave or anything. Curious, I get up from the couch and I head to the kitchen and I see him sort of looking at this thing of instant noodles and scratching his head as if it's some sort of alien dinner. I'm like, having trouble, buddy? And he's like, how do I make this? The noodles are dry. And I literally had to pick my jaw off the floor. Then I walked him through putting the water in, putting the mix pack in, and putting it in the microwave. So the next day, I'm taking a nap upstairs and he's playing his game on the couch. Then maybe about 20 minutes later, I'm woken up to these awful electrical noises and Kaylin screaming. I run downstairs and the kitchen is full of smoke and the microwave is all up in flames and the flames are literally up on the wall and the wall is on fire and then it's quickly making its way up to the ceiling. Kaylin's freaking out and thankfully I remember there's a fire extinguisher under the kitchen sink, so I grab it and start extinguishing this huge SS fire. Once it's out, I start crying because of all of this adrenaline and how scared I was, and I'm seeing the damage to the wall. It's all charred. And we quite literally live in the cabin, so the wall is made of tree logs. Literally cannot fix this. Kaylin is sobbing and he's saying, I'm sorry. And I just sort of lose it and yell at him to go downstairs. I crack all of the windows open and start the fan so the burning smell will go away. Then I see in the microwave what looks like could have been an instant noodle thing. Sue looks like he didn't put water in it and just put the noodles in dry, and that's what started the fire. Honestly, I can't. I called his mom and told her what happened and said that I wasn't sure how safe the house was with the chemically electric fumes, and so I asked if she'd be willing to meet us halfway so that Kaylin can spend the rest of the weekend at home. She was totally okay with it and apologized profusely. I called my husband and told him what happened, and I even texted him photos, and he literally just laughed and said, whoa. That's not good. And I said, that's it? That's all you have to say? And he said, well, I'm just glad you guys are okay. And I said, your son nearly burned down our home. And he said, but it didn't burn down because you were there. And I said, what if I hadn't been here? I said, your son is 14, he should know better. He's old enough to be at home on his own. What if I wasn't here, or what if he was back home with his mom and did the same thing? This was bad. Really bad. I said, this is the product of babying your son. And then he lost it on me and said that I was overreacting. And I said, our house is permanently damaged because of him and we can't just take a log out of our home and replace it. I said, how am I ever going to be respected by his kids if my own husband can't even respect me enough to listen to me? He said that I was being the evil stepmother and that I should know my place. And I said, oh? What place might that be? Then he says, you can't come in and act like you're their mother and try to change everything. And I said I have never, ever, not once, tried to replace their mother. I'm trying to explain to you that your son is lacking the basic skills of life because you've sheltered him from the world. You keep giving him that silver spoon. And if you're not careful, he's not going to make it in the real world. Then he told me that I was a dumb bitch and didn't know what I was talking about. I'll never know what it's like to be a mother because he's never going to give me children. I said you can't possibly mean that. And he said I mean every word. You need to learn to shut your mouth. And with that, I hung up the phone. So now he's staying wherever he is for work, and I told him to stay there in a hotel. I said I don't want him to come home. I said he couldn't have cared less if it even burned down. I'm here and I just spent my weekend trying to clean what I could from the wall. The house smells of burnt. Everything smells. No matter what I do, my hair smells. Ike. Ida? Am I wrong here? Update. Okay, so some of you said I was taking it too far and others said to leave us at SS. Well, this incident sort of had me looking back at a lot of things and really got me thinking. I mean, he has a vasectomy. And I remember telling him early on in our relationship that I didn't want to rule out having kids of my own one day. And he didn't actually mention that he had a vasectomy until much later after that conversation. And at the time, I just thought that I wasn't going to have kids of my own and that I'd live with being a stepmom and that I was going to be the best stepmom there ever was. That was a funny daydream. And I didn't even see him not telling me something important like that as a red flag until now. I'll admit, I was blinded by love. I just wanted to make it work. I tried to be the chill chick about it all. He wanted to buy a place halfway for us? Okay, sure. But then he was hardly ever home because he was away for work so much, so I was all alone in this beautiful house. He literally isolated me from everyone I love. I miss my friends. I miss my family. And he made me hate going to work because I had to drive so far there and back. I used to love work and love what I do. I do want kids of my own. I don't want to have to tiptoe around things or be scared to say things to my husband about how he should raise his kids or discipline them. I have no power here. I can't live in a place where I'm not respected and my voice isn't heard. I'll never be able to parent these kids when my own husband tries to be their best friend. So I officially left him. We're able to get the marriage annulled. I'm staying with my mom for now. As much as I loved that house, I couldn't stay there any longer. It ended up feeling like a prison. I'm back in the city and I'm a few minutes away from work and I see my friends almost every day. I get to spend time with my best friend and her new baby. I feel good about all of this. I've also heard from some mutual friends that my ex was demoted at work. Looks like his dismissive attitude and lack of responsibility finally caught up with him and spilled over into other aspects of his life. Not only that, but because of his demotion, he's having a hard time coming up with the money to pay child support, and his daughter still isn't speaking to him. I don't blame her. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Wife confessed she repeatedly cheated on me while leaving me home alone to care for our special needs son. She doesn't regret it, and refuses to move out until I buy back her share. Here's a not so brief state of our situation. I, 37, and my wife's, 34, relationship has been strained lately with her working nights. And I work days. Because our son, 3 years old, has special needs, a standard babysitter isn't possible and specialized care isn't available or financially feasible. He has a few hours a week at school in a therapy setting. Otherwise, he's with one of us. Because of the schedules, we've been the ships passing in the night. Most days, we got 10 minutes to see each other. Not a perfect situation. And it's something I wanted to fix. I've been sleeping in the guest room so that she can decompress and get some quality sleep alone. It was not something I wanted to do. But for her benefit, I thought it would help her sleeplessness. Our sex life has been non-existent for a long time. In the past few months when we have talked, she would mention things like, we should try an open relationship because I don't like sex anymore and you should be free to explore and getting married has screwed up our finances, we should get an on-paper divorce. I never took her that seriously because she said them in such a joking tone. Lately, she has mentioned that she feels like we're great roommates. She has also wanted to go out with her friends more often on her nights off. I'm not the type for that. So, I stay home with our son. Admittedly, a special needs child can be very difficult. Her having a night off was completely understandable. Come to 2 weeks ago, I asked to sit down and talk about our relationship. She agreed to talk the next day and I actually sent her an email of questions I had on my mind. Questions like, how would you describe our relationship? And do you want to share a bed anymore? And most importantly, have you had sex outside of our marriage? We sat down after our son was in bed and had the talk. We talked for a few minutes about what she thought of our relationship. She said she doesn't see us as a couple anymore. She started to cry. Then she said, you asked if I've had sex with anyone else. The answer is yes. It immediately hit me like a ton of bricks. I had asked the question more for peace of mind for me rather than a confirmation. I had suspicions before but I thought they were all in my head. We talked for 2 hours. I said very little and tried to keep my anger in my check. But here's what was revealed. She did not want to talk about the details of the other relationship with me. That doesn't matter. She admitted to it happening more than once and it was premeditated. She had gone out with my blessing to hang out with friends knowing that she was going to cheat. The affair is not still going on. But she was still talking to the person. She wasn't necessarily interested in a romantic or sexual relationship outside of our marriage right now, but she's open to anything. She didn't realize until recently that she's probably not really into the whole monogamy thing. As for our relationship, we're done. And she wanted me out of the bedroom completely. She wants to remain in the house to co-parent not just because we have to but because she wants to. You're a great dad and that part of you I still really care about. She kept saying, we don't have to make any decisions right now. And I know it's a lot. Also, I don't hate you. I still care about you, and I'm sure you hate me. Since then I've moved upstairs. I've initiated a separation of our finances and healthcare. That conversation resulted in her crying and saying this is a lot right now. But she has relented. She has also said that she's depressed and mourning losing her best friends and retreats to her room frequently. I've mentioned divorce, her moving out, and selling the house, all of which are returned with vague warnings of expense and difficulty, and disrupting our son. Conversations with my friends say she's gaslighting me or manipulating the situation so that she gets to have her cake and eat it too. I've come to believe that having her move out may be difficult for our son, but it's what's best for my mental health. And that's ultimately best for my son. But I have no idea how to make it happen. I feel so lost and broken. Just typing this up has taken a few days because I can't get through it. All I think about is how I wanted to fix our relationship and how she put someone else above spending time with us. She used my dependability as a father for her selfish reasons. Then think about being kind to her so that she can stay in our child's life. He will need both of us. It is sadness, then pain, then anger, then a few minutes of numbness before it starts again. Merry Christmas to me. I'll add a few more pieces of information. As I said below, some of the nights out were explained as work-related social events, or with friends for work that I don't know. Obviously now I can't trust that information very much. I'm sure that one of those nights she cheated. It was described as a mom's night off where I took my son to play at an indoor playground. So we could get ready and then take an Uber out to a bar. Brutal when I realized that one. But I do know some of her friends. One of those friends is actually a female friend of mine from before the relationship. Let's call her Fran. Fran has not been in contact with us, but I've told her the situation and she's been helping me very kindly. I haven't asked her to verify any alibis. I also learned through Fran that my spouse had told other mutual friends that her app has a girlfriend. The girlfriend knows about the affair, and app is trying to repair that relationship. I don't know where that leaves my spouse or even how much I can trust fourth-hand information. She has apologized indirectly. She said, I'm sorry that I hurt you. But she also explicitly said that she does not regret cheating. This week she works most days, but we're going to try to have a normal Christmas Eve and day. Then I'm taking my son to see my family this weekend. I'll tell them what's going on then. She told her mom that we are not together and that she cheated. Her mom is sad about the situation. I'm talking about her moving out. She refuses to leave until we sell the house or I buy it back alone. And she gets her share of the equity. She said, that's fair if you're going to kick me out. Also, she said that if I tried to stop her from seeing our child, she would fight it. Those are the only two things she has been forceful or antagonistic about. She's open to seeing a divorce attorney or mediator whenever I want. I realized reading the above, I may have made her out to be more manipulative and colder than she may be. But the facts are correct. So, judge us as you will.